Hello, it is Tuesday and it's the 11th of January 2022 and I'm reading out of BLISS Afterlife. It's a story I started in 2006. It's about a reincarnation, Bliss, who died at 95 after her birthday, which is a little while ago, and this story has been explaining her family and her background, and we are now at chapter 105. And we are describing the new year, really, which started in 2012 in this book, yesterday. Anna. It was finally March. Anna had said tearfully goodbye to her parents the day before. They had a wonderful time. She had explained that the circumstances of her arrival here had not been quite so straightforward, but it somehow didn't seem to matter anymore. Her parents were happy not knowing the sordid details. When she mentioned that she had come for a job which was completely bogus, it had not sounded too bad, and they could see that she was doing fine now, and she did not harp on about it. They had got to know David quite well. He had bought a flat near Lymington, they heard, in a New Forest, and Susan seemed as excited as he was to move and plan the rooms, although Anna did not intend to move herself although Susan did not intend to move any time soon. It seemed to Anna that she liked to spend as much time as possible with him. The refuge had been very busy since the... No, I have somehow missed the page. Since the New Year's had started and Anna was now familiar with all the details of the running of the place. She had been to the south coast with them for a change of scenery, and they had all stayed at Bliss Place, which had been great. Chris and Holly showed them around for a couple of days, and her parents loved that. Sue and David had picked them up again. They spent some time together as well. Anna had taken the train back to London the next day already. Someone in charge had to be at the refuge, but February had been very busy. She had finally had time to think. With her parents here, she had almost forgotten all about the way she ended up here, and sitting nursing her coffee by the open back door, she was looking at the garden. It had given her so much solace. When she arrived here almost 3 months ago, she could hardly believe how much had happened. If the job had been a real one, she would have been working in a casino now, somewhere in London, probably struggling to pay her rent despite the regular pay she would have probably got, maybe. Would she have made friends amongst her colleagues? Would she have been happier than she was now? She smiled to herself. She felt so grateful for all the help Susan had given her. It had all evolved so organically. Having met David again made things really much easier. Sue and her had become good friends over the last few weeks. She was here every day. This time Anna had met everybody who was dear to Susan. Her friendship with Faye had given her so much comfort, and their arrival, just when Anna had got here, was a wonderful, synchronistic event. Never mind the meeting with Sue's boyfriend, David, of over 35 years ago. And Peter, although she had not seen him for a little while since the New Year, they were in touch all the time, and he was due to visit his mother mid-March. They had spent long hours on the phone talking about their lives, their work, everything really. He had a lovely voice, and she found him so easy to talk to, particularly on the phone. She did not have to pretend to be anything that she wasn't. Her life in Moscow had been so very different to the life she was living here now. And that all happened just in the last 4 months. She felt herself more to be herself here than she had for a long, long time, even in her hometown. Her parents had been asking when she would come, even for a visit. But Anna was not feeling like going at all, and in her last conversation with Susan, she had committed herself to staying long-term in the refuge. There had not been one moment when she wanted to be back where she had come from. She felt this so strongly, and she hugged herself. The coffee was finished, and she had a lot to do. She had moved into the annex, which Susan had given her, and she had started to make it feel her own. She felt so happy, and humming to herself, she walked back into the kitchen to tackle this morning's breakfast and aftermath. Chapter 106. David. His completion date would be March 20th. David was getting seriously excited about his new place in the New Forest, right in the New Forest. A long driveway to the house, cottage, really. A beautiful large garden and 4 bedrooms. It was amazing that they came across it. They had taken a wrong turn 3 weeks ago. He was driving back from his aunt's to Holly's through the forest. In fact, he and Susan, had been talking that very moment about the kind of place he imagined for himself to live in. He remembered starting the conversation because he loved this part of the world. Susan's place was in London, and as much as he liked her house and the refuge, he knew that he wanted to be somewhere else, much quieter. He wanted to know how she felt. Their relationship had progressed in such a lovely way that he knew he needed to live somewhere where she would be happy to come and visit. There was much going on in the refuge, and he wanted to know. They had missed a turn and came across a small road which had a for sale sign at the end of a rough pathway. They had looked at each other and parked the car as far on the side as they could and walked up to the unmade road. After 200 feet or so, they could see a house with a large front door and a lawn stretching around the house, around all the sides, edged by a gravel path. A car was parked in the front. There was room for another, and without saying a word, they walked up to the house, which looked gorgeous. Overgrown with wisteria and a rose around the sky blue front door. Even though not in bloom, it was easy to imagine it in summer. David had raised his eyebrows questioningly to Susan. She had already pressed the doorbell. They laughed. "Where is the music?" David remembered saying, which had them both giggle. They had felt like being in a movie suddenly. The door was opened by a white-haired lady, bright blue eyes, smiling. "Hello. We are sorry to disturb you." David had found himself struggling for words. She looked so like his mother. Or as she would have done had she lived. He had tried to think how old she would be now. Maybe older than this lady would be. She had a lively look about her, and when she opened the door wider, he could see she was holding a pair of secateurs and rubber gloves. And she was wearing jeans. And her trousers were tucked into the boots. How old was she? He remembered her exact words. "No worry at all. Come in." Come in, the two of you. I'm in the middle of pruning, but happy to be disturbed. I am Hilary. She had laughed out loud and had let them into the living room. Or it was more a bright hallway. They could see the kitchen and the conservatory ahead. The doors to the garden were open, and it had all looked so inviting. She had spoken first. Sue said, "We had taken a wrong turn and saw the for sale sign at the end of your path. David here," pointing at him, "is looking for a place to buy." They all joined in the laughter because it all seemed so funny. They had explained their circumstances and laughed the way Hilary just said, "Well, that sounds absolutely fabulous. Fabulous. How fortuitous." She had invited them in. She was telling them that she had lived here for 30 years, had grown up in London and had lived in Clapham through her 30s and 40s, etc. Living here in the New Forest, one needed a car, and she had just celebrated her 90th birthday. Her family had been urging her to move, and after the last winter she had now agreed with them that it would be more convenient to walk to a shop and leave her car in the garage. It had been on the market for about 2 weeks, and she had no views yet. She did not seem to need any help living by herself, but it was very remote, and she asked them to have a look around, and she wanted to make them tea if they wanted some. David had been looking out into the garden. The first spring flowers had been showing, and the garden was backed on all sides by the New Forest. It was incredibly quiet and beautiful, peaceful. Birds were singing, and he knew already then he definitely wanted to live here. They had a look upstairs. It was not huge, but good-sized bedrooms, and the remoteness was a blessing for him. When they had come back down again the stairs, Hilary told them that her daughter had wanted her quite a while to sell it, and it was for families far too remote for schools or shops. They had wanted her to put it on the market ages ago, but she had been reluctant because it was such a lovely place and she liked her independence. Over the years she had lost many of her friends. They had all used to come here, but one after the other stopped driving or passed away. She herself loved having her daughter and family coming to stay, but the children were now grown up and everybody was so busy. She had seen a lovely place very close to the sea and the high street, and her daughter lived only 10 minutes away from there. She had seen it twice now, and she had put an offer in. She had just started to get worried because nobody had come to see her house yet. She had all the details printed from the estate agent on the table. She told them that she had bought it in 1982 for less than £40,000. The flat she had in mind was an enormous amount of money to her, but when she saw the asking price they gave her for this house, she knew that she wouldn't have a problem. David could see it too. He couldn't believe how the years had made the prices so different. He said he could almost put another zero on. Anyway, she was going to buy them. Ah, my goodness, now I don't know where I've stopped. I hate that. Anyway, Hilary had decided to buy this flat. It was close to the sea, and she had seen it twice now, and she put an offer in. The flat I think I have to see where I stopped. Something's going wrong. Bye.